Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani Design PD-1711. This watch is available from Pagani Design official store on AliExpress. During the 11/11 AliExpress sale, the price of this watch will be €87. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the PD-1711 comes in this familiar black cardboard Pagani Design watch box. The watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel, as one would expect. So although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use this basic cardboard style watch box, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at only €87. With the watch, one gets this branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of a piece. This is the plastic tag that comes with the watch, and one also gets this owner's instruction manual. It is basic, but it does have clear, concise diagrams, and the instructions are in English. It details the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz. And lastly, one also gets this plastic guarantee card. As usual, it's not filled in. However, I'm pleased to report that this Pagani Design PD-1711 is covered by the usual 12-month international guarantee, which is very reassuring. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Pagani Design PD-1711. As you can see, the watch is clearly an homage to the Omega Planetocean chronograph, and it has very similar proportions. 43.2mm case diameter. It has a 49.3mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 15.1mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The Seamaster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the 2-button push clasp. As you can see, the 2-button push clasp is signed to a high standard with Pagani Design engraved. Personally, I dislike these stripes that they've added to the 2-button push clasp. They're obviously trying to complement the Seamaster style bracelet with those stripes, but I think it would look better if it was just brushed satin finish and more sterile rather than having these ribbed stripes. I think that they spoil it, but however, it's subjective. Some collectors might like this. Now, with regards to the clasp, as usual, I'm going to be critical of it only having 3 micro adjustment holes. I think it would be better if the clasp were extended and it had 4 micro adjustment holes to better fine tune the length of the bracelet to get the perfect fit. Now, this clasp is defective, and I'm going to highlight what the problem is. The 2-button push triggers have the usual firm resistance, which is good, but however it doesn't deploy to a satisfactory standard every time. Sometimes it deploys on the first push of the 2 triggers, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts. It doesn't consistently unlock. So as you can see, it's irritating because sometimes when it's on wrist, one has to keep pressing the 2 triggers 2 or 3 times to get the actual locking mechanism to release. So it's unsatisfactory, and it's something that's very irritating. Now, it does click positively shut every time, but however, when deploying it, when opening it, it doesn't always release. Sometimes it catches. With regards to the interior, solid milled 316L grade stainless steel, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks to a satisfactory standard. So I like the use of the solid milled clasp. Now, there is another cross-cutting measure which I think is unacceptable. They've used a pressed metal stainless steel diver's extension. Personally, I think it would be better to delete this diver's extension because it is abhorrent. The PD-1661 and PD-1662 use solid milled stainless steel diver's extensions, which are superior to this cross-cutting measure of the pressed metal stainless steel diver's extension, and I really would like to see this upgraded to the solid milled stainless steel diver's extension used in the PD-1661, or alternatively just delete it because it really is abhorrent. So that's a disappointment. Although it does work to a satisfactory standard, it clicks in and out, one can deploy it and click it back in with no difficulty, unlike the 2-button push clasp, which works sometimes but then doesn't unlock other times. With regards to the rest of the specification, the ceramic bezel insert is finished to a high standard. It's got the Omega Planetocean style Arabic numerals, which are aesthetically pleasing, and the minute ticks are fully indexed all the way through the 360 degrees. The first quarter is indexed with larger minute ticks, which is very aesthetically pleasing. Double dome sapphire crystal. Now the negative is there is no AR coating on the underside of the double dome sapphire crystal. I like the profile of the double dome, and I also like the lip which projects above the ceramic bezel insert. It is very good to look at, but however there is a lot of glare and highly reflective nature due to the use of silver applied indices, silver broad arrow style hands, and also the silver hands on the subdials. So really it would benefit from clear AR coating on the underside, and it's a cost cutting measure that they haven't used anti-reflective coating, which is a disappointment. But having said that, the symmetry of the dial is excellent, the legibility, the functionality is excellent because it follows the classic Omega Planetocean chronograph dial layout, and I like the symmetry of the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock subdials. I also like the sighting of the date complication at 6 o'clock because it retains the symmetry of the applied indices. The white date with black Arabic numerals is clearly legible. So the dial layout is very good, and this does a good job of being an homage to the Planetocean chronograph with this same dial layout with these silver applied Arabic numerals at 12 o'clock. The broad arrow style hands are fully loomed and also clearly legible, and I like the proportions of the broad arrow style hands. So let's test the bezel action. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. It's got a light resistance to the 120 clicks all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. Now unfortunately there is lateral side to side play, which is a disappointment, and there is also back play, as you can see, and that is very disappointing. The back play persists all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation, and it is significant. We're looking at 1 to 2 clicks of back play, which is wholly unacceptable. So I'll just check the alignment. Now, on a positive note, the Lume Pippin triangle does align correctly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So the alignment is correct despite the lateral side play and the back play, which are negatives, but these are things that I want you to consider. So let's test the crown action. Solid stainless steel crown, signed with the Pagani design emblem, mirror polished to a high standard with a bead blasted matte background, nail finish to it, and the screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters of water resistance, which is perfectly acceptable for a chronograph piece. So I'll just test the action. Unscrewing it is smooth, and it's a credit to Pagani design. They have made a very well executed screw down crown. The Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz has a characteristic pop to the winding stem. It pushes the winding stem and the crown out of the movement. So, as this is a Mecha Quartz, it doesn't need manual winding, it's battery powered, which is very good. Putting it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. If you look close at 6 o'clock, you can see the quick set date complication works as one would expect, and that's something I like about the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz. It's a reliable, well-proven Mecha Quartz movement. Putting it out to the second click position is the time setting position, and it's silky smooth. Being a Mecha Quartz, there's no resistance whatsoever. It doesn't have any jewels, and therefore there's no resistance in the Mecha Quartz movement. It's very smooth to set the time in both clockwise and anti-clockwise positions, so it's an absolute pleasure to operate. Now, it does hack, so I'm going to explain something. With Mecha Quartz movements, one can extend the battery life of the Mecha Quartz by pulling out the crown to the second position, the final click position. That will actually stop the Mecha Quartz movement, and it has the effect of battery saving. The stated battery life of the Seiko VK64 is 3 years. But that is based upon you using the chronograph complication for 30 minutes per day. In reality, you're not going to be using the chronograph complication for anything like 30 minutes per day. So it's nothing unusual for a VK64's battery life to last for longer than 3 years. They can even last for 4 or even 5 years. Another thing you can do, if you wear the watch in rotation, as I've discussed, you can withdraw the crown to the time setting position, as you can see. And that has the effect of hacking the movement, and it actually stops the battery discharging. So that's a useful feature if you're not going to be wearing the watch for long periods of time. If you have it as part of a collection, you can pull out the crown, and that saves the battery life. Pushing it back in restarts the movement, and the battery begins to power the Mecha Quartz once again. So I'll just test screwing it back down again. Silky smooth. There's an immediate pickup between the internal thread of the solid stainless steel crown and the external thread of the crown tube. So the crown action is smooth, and it is very well executed. Pagani design deserve full credit for a very well executed screw down crown. Right, so let's test the chronograph complication. The top pusher activates the chronograph. Nice firm resistance to the pusher, it's spring loaded and I like that firm resistance, it feels very reliable. And as you can see, the second hand for the chronograph complication begins to sweep around the dial. Pressing it again stops the chronograph complication, and pressing the lower pusher activates the flyback complication. And what will happen is the chronograph second hand will fly back to the 12 o'clock position on the dial, as you can see. Perfect alignment on the chronograph second hand, which is very reassuring. And this reinforces my view that the Seiko VK64 is a reliable, well-proven mecha quartz movement and the correct choice. For example, Pagani Design could have used a less expensive mecha quartz movement for the chronograph. They could have used a Sunon PD-1711 or 903, which are significantly less expensive than the Seiko VK64. But this VK64 is a better quality mecha quartz movement than the Sunon PE902 and PE903. So they have made the correct choice. Although more expensive, it is more reliable and also more accurate. I like the fact the chronograph second hand always resets bang on 12 o'clock. So it's accurate, the build quality, the quality control are all there. So the execution of the chronograph works as one would expect. Now, with regards to the screw down case back, it's solid stainless steel made from 316L grade stainless steel, nicely engraved with a diver's helmet, as you can see, and engraved with the specification of the piece. Brass satin finish throughout. It's got a matte bead blasted effect to the centre section and milled slots. So it's low profile, comfortable on wrist because of its low profile flat shape. And they deserve full credit because it is a well executed screw down stainless steel case back which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly acceptable. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I have sized the bracelet because it's a very long bracelet, and even for my 8-inch wrist, which is large, I found it to be excessive. So I've removed two full links from the Seamaster style bracelet to get the perfect fit. And as you can see, I like to wear my watches loose and I can just slide an index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp at all times, which is the correct sizing method. Now, as I've discussed, the main disappointment of this bracelet is the clasp. Pressing the two pushers doesn't always deploy the 2-button push clasp. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and one's got to keep trying it. And it's very frustrating because if one wants to just remove the watch instantly, one has to keep pressing the two pushers 2 or 3 times to get it to unlock. It doesn't always happen. And that's wholly unacceptable regardless of the price point of a piece. It should always unlock. The 2-button push clasp should always deploy first time, every time. Having said that, it always does click shut and it isn't going to accidentally deploy, which is good. Now, it's a curiosity why they chose the Seamaster style bracelet, because this is an homage to the Omega Planetocean chronograph, not the Seamaster chronograph, so really it's a contradiction. I personally don't think the Seamaster bracelet suits the aesthetic of a Planetocean. A Planetocean homage should have a Planet Ocean style bracelet. A Seamaster homage should have a Seamaster style bracelet like this one. They really don't work together. The Seamaster bracelet isn't seen on the Planetocean, and vice versa. So really I think they've made a mistake. Now on a positive note, it does have female pivoted end links, which does enhance the fit. So as you can see, it is an aesthetically pleasing piece, although it is large and it does wear with wrist presence. So at 43.2mm, the head of the piece is very large, and I'm going to say, if you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist, you are going to find this to be too large, too much wrist presence for comfort. It does feel like a top heavy piece rather than being balanced, because 43mm is a large head of the piece for only a 20mm lug width. If it were 21 or 22, as per the Planetocean, this would be a better balanced piece. Now the proportions are good, although I don't think on this Seamaster style bracelet it does wear very comfortably. It does feel very top heavy. The other thing to note is it is a tall piece. It's 15.1mm, including the double dome sapphire crystal, as you can see. So it's a tall piece and it's also a wide piece. It's not easily going to slip underneath the shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. Really 13mm is the maximum for comfort to easily slip underneath the shirt cuff if you wear business shirts, and for long periods of time. If you're going to wear the piece as a daily wear piece for 8 to 12 hours per day, 13mm is comfortable. At 15.1, it is a tall and top-heavy piece, and at 43.2mm diameter, it's also large. The other thing to bear in mind is this is a very heavy watch. It's 185 grams of heft. Now bear in mind, I have removed 2 full links from the bracelet, and of course if you have a smaller wrist you are going to remove 4 or 5 links, for example, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist. But at 185 grams it is noticeable. One can feel the heft, and also the fact it's top heavy, it's tall and a wide piece. So I think the comfort level of this piece could be further enhanced by wearing it on a rubber strap, leather strap or NATO strap, because removing this Seamaster style bracelet would significantly reduce the heft to circa 150 grams and therefore make it more practical as a daily wear piece to wear for 8 to 12 hours per day. Right, so let's test the Lume and we'll see how it performs. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged. Now, I'm pleased to say that it does use the same colour Lume on the applied indices, the broad arrow style hands and the Lume pip on the ceramic bezel inserts. I was actually expecting there to be a colour mismatch. Now, ironically, on the Omega Planet Ocean chronograph, which this is an homage to, there is a colour match. Omega colour the minute hand on the broad arrow hands, a different colour to the Lume on the applied indices and the Lume pip on the bezel. Now, I fully expected Pagani Design to copy that and have a different coloured a minute hand on the broad arrow hands to the applied indices. I thought there would be blue and green tone Lume, but they've used C3 Luminova throughout. Now, this is another clear cost-cutting measure. It's C3 Luminova rather than being C3 Super Luminova. I would rather see BGW9 Super Luminova or alternatively C3 Luminova used, C3 Super Luminova used, sorry, because it would be brighter. As you can see, it's fading and fading fast, and really it's not glowing brightly initially and it's beginning to fade very fast, especially on the broad arrow hands, which is very disappointing because the broad arrow hands are large, they're well proportioned, and they do allow enough area for large Lume plots to be applied, and several layers of C3 Super Luminova could potentially be applied. And it's now beginning to fade on the Lume pip, on the ceramic bezel insert, and also the applied indices. So this is poor quality Luminova, and I really think at this price point it needs to be upgraded to better quality C3 Super Luminova. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. Now, as I've detailed, the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz is a reliable, well-proven workhorse Mecha Quartz movement. It's a credible alternative to an automatic chronograph or alternatively a manual wind chronograph, and at this price point, €87 within the low tier, it's a sensible choice. And as I've discussed, I think Pagani Design deserve full credit for choosing the Seiko VK64 over the Sunon PE-902 or 903, which are less expensive options. They're often used by low tier Chinese brands because of the inexpensive wholesale price. The Seiko VK64 is a very accurate movement. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 20 seconds per month. Not per week, per month. I want you to consider that. Plus or minus 20 seconds per month is better than plus or minus 1 second per day. And I'm pleased to report that this one is indeed running within plus or minus 20 seconds per month. The accuracy of this Mecha Quartz is better than plus or minus 1 second per day. It's running close to 0 seconds per day. So plus or minus 20 seconds is very accurate, and that's something I really like about this Seiko VK64. The other thing I like about it is the 3-year battery life. One can purchase this watch and wear it every day for 3 years without having to change the battery. And the satisfaction of a Mecha Quartz is, unlike a manual wind or automatic piece, one doesn't have to wind the movement, one doesn't have to wear the piece 8 to 12 hours per day to wind it automatically. The Mecha Quartz is battery powered, so it's accurate, but it also doesn't require any winding. So if you wear pieces in rotation, this is practical because you can take it off and put it in a watch roll or a watch box, and you don't have to keep winding it, you don't have to put it on an automatic watch winder, and you don't have to manually wind it to keep it running. It has a 3-year battery life. Now, as I've discussed, you can extend that significantly by withdrawing the crown to the time setting position, hacking the movement and disengaging the battery from the quartz so it doesn't power it. So you can actually run these for 4 to 5 years if you pull out the crown when not in use. But even if you leave it running consistently non-stop for 3 years, it will easily last for 3 years, and that's based upon you using the chronograph complication for 30 minutes per day, as I've discussed, but in reality you won't be doing that. So I like the Seiko VK64, it's the main positive of this watch. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, difficult piece to weigh up because there are some positives and there are some negatives. So really, to make a decision on it, I need to discuss the finishing. The quality of the finishing on the head of the piece, the brush satin finishing to the flanks and the mirror polishing to the large chamfers is outstanding. It is very good quality. And I think they deserve credit because the head of the piece is very well executed. The bezel finishing, the case finishing, and also the screw down case back are all finished to a high standard. But however, that contrasts with a poor finished, poor quality bracelet. It's very rattly, there's a lot of extra articulation and a lot of play between the links. And it feels hollow. Despite being made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, it actually feels like it's a hollow bracelet. The end links in the female pivoted end links are very poor fit. There's lots of play, they're very sloppy, as you can see, lots of extra articulation. So I dislike the fit of the end links, I dislike the bracelet, it feels poor quality, and I think they've made a mistake using a Seamaster style bracelet on a Planet Ocean Homage. The other clear cost cutting measure is the use of push pins, which are split pins, rather than using screw pins, which are high quality. So again, this is a cost cutting measure which is disappointing. And lastly, the thing that really disappoints me, the main negative of the watch, is the 2-button push clasp, which doesn't activate every time. One has to keep pressing it 2 or 3 times to get it to actually unlock, and then we've got the poor quality diver's extension link, as I've detailed. So it's a difficult piece to weigh up because we've got a good quality head of the piece but a poor quality bracelet. Now the other thing which is disappointing is the poor bezel action, as I've discussed, and that contrasts with a good quality crown execution. So there are positives and negatives throughout. So overall, I'm going to say it is okay quality, and I'm going to say it's okay value based upon the 1111 sale price of €87. I cannot say it's good quality, and I cannot say it's excellent quality because of the poor bezel action, poor quality lume performance, and this poor quality bracelet. These are negatives which really detract from the piece. So I'm going to recommend it to you for your consideration, but bear in mind the shortcomings, bear in mind the cost-cutting measures when you are weighing up buying the piece at €87. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani design PD-1711. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.